Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Coding for Cure. We will learn to code in Python while also helping out the Cure Foundation in its mission to end childhood cancer. All profits from this course will benefit Cure. I'll have a donation link posted in the description of this video for anybody who wants to pitch in and help Cure. In this video, we will go over some variable types in Python. If you haven't watched last week's video, feel free to click on my channel and go watch it. But anyways, let's get started. So today we will go over how to store collections of data by the use of the variable types list, tuple, and dictionary. So first, let's get into lists. So lists are another data type in Python, and you'll find these ones used the most out of all three. They contain many other objects, such as strings and integers. And they are very for storing many values in a single variable. So I think it's best to go into an explanation of what the syntax of lists are and then show you an example first to help you understand. So here's the syntax for a list. They're denoted just like any other variable with an equal sign to a name for the variable. For example, list name equals the items in square brackets. The square brackets indicate the list is starting. And important, any individual item in the list, for example, we have item 1, item 2, and item 3. They're all separated by commas. That's very important because without the commas, Python thinks that they're just one big item. So for example, we have the variable x equals, starting the brackets indicating that x, the list, 4, comma high, comma true. So as you can see, lists can also hold many other different types of variables. So let's hop into a quick example that I'm going to write out for you guys. So let's start a list with a new name. For example, we can go new list. We can set that equal to these square brackets, and then we can write out what the values of our variable we want them to be. For example, for this list, let's make the first value hello. The second value can be goodbye, quotes. The third value should be, let's say, 90, or integer. You can go for a fourth one being 12.5, a float. And our fifth one can be a Boolean, true, right? So I'll go and print this out for you guys so you can see what the output of printing a list will look like. We can just write print, calling our print function, and then write the name of the list. New list. So let's run this code. As you can see, it prints just like that. So let's get into some of the things that lists can. Lists have some special operations that can be used to manipulate them. These are usually called putting the operation behind the list name with a dot. For example, dot append is used by a list as, for example, list name dot append followed by the value you'd like to append to the list. So here's a quick example of that. For example, I have this list here called Japanese cars. I write dot append, right? And then I put whatever value I want to add to the list. For example, I'll put Nissan R32 Skyline in quotes as a string. And when I print that, it adds it along to the list. Pretty cool. All right, so I'll do another example for you guys. So as you can see here, we have a new list, right? What we can do, first we've printed it like this. We can new list dot append, hold up, and then we can write whatever value you want. For example, if you want to write an integer, we could write 90, float, for example, 90.50. Let's just say. First, make sure that it prints out our new list. So as you can see, we have two new lists right here. The first one would be from our regular list that we just wrote out here. The second one is our list with the new value appended. For example, now it says hello, goodbye, 90, 12.5, true, and 90.5. Important thing to note here, the way append works, it only adds the value to the very end of the list. So you'll need to use a different function in order to add something to a specific value of a list. So let's talk to our next function. Our next one is remove accordingly. So this removes a value from the list. It's written as remove and the value you want to remove. For example, if I want to remove that car I just added to the list, I can write its name there, and then I can try to print the list again, and you can see that it's gone. So let's do an example of remove. For example, if I do new list dot append that value, right? I can change this to remove, and we run this again. See, it's now left the list. An important thing to consider, however, if my list has multiple of 1, for example, if my list were to have multiple 90.5s, such as here, it will only remove one of them. So that is important to consider. So if you have multiple that are the same type, it might not delete the one that you're wanting to delete. Anyways, let's get to the next operation. Next one is insert. So insert works similarly to append. However, instead of adding it just to the end of the list, it will add it to a specific value of the list. We write this as insert index number value. Index number is the place in the list. For example, if I count on this list, right? Python counts from 0, so you should make sure you have the correct index of 0. So we'll start counting this list 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? And if I said 1, for example, so if I do new list dot insert 0, let me just print the new list. Let's see where it adds 90.5. So as we can see, it adds 90.5 in the very front of our list. Very cool. So our next operation is pop. Pop, similar to remove, and just like with insert, it removes a specific index. So you don't need to specify the name, just the index of that item. For example, if I am to go and write, say I want to get rid of goodbye, right? Currently, we just take a look at the list, you can see that goodbye is in the first index, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we'll do new list dot pop, and then we'll put the number of the index. For example, we'll put 1 right here, and then we'll print new list again. So as you can see, it gets rid of goodbye for us. So I personally, out of the two, think that most of the time remove is not necessary, and I would rather have you guys use pop, because pop is just way more efficient, way easier to write out than writing out an entire name, and you also know exactly what you're deleting. So here's the final list operation. This one is very useful most of the time for running loops, for example, which we'll go over later. So this operation will print the length of the list. It's written as LEN, the name of the list. For example, if you do LEN of this list Japanese cars, we got 5, for example. But I'll do it myself to let you guys look. Get a quick look. For example, you guys can see this list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Important to note, when Python does len or len, it counts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It does not count from just 0. So let's do new list. Instead of printing new list here, we'll print the length of new list. See, it's 5. An important thing also as well, for example, you could do x, since len is a function, you could just do x equals the length of list. Pretty cool. We run this. We've now set the variable x equals 5, and if we do print x, that, voila, 5. Next, let's end up printing an individual value from a list. So we've seen how to add, delete stuff from a list, but if I want to get a specific value from a list, I can print that value by either setting a variable equal to that specific index of a list, aka what item is in that place of the list, or I can just directly print it. So if I want to print, let's say, I'll do it once each way. If I want to print hello, I can just go like that, right? Is that, for example, and see, it prints hello, just like that. I could also just skip that entirely, right? And just write it to print whatever is at 0 on the list. And voila, prints hello, just like that. Pretty cool, if you ask me. So let's get into our next data type. It's called a tuple. Tuples are like lists, but they stand for one variable that has different fields of data types. They're denoted by parentheses instead of brackets. They can also store multiple values. However, the order of the objects cannot be changed in a tuple. For example, let's do a tuple right now. Make this, instead of a new list, I'll make it new tuple. And I can set my tuple equal to exactly this. Similarly to list, tuples can have all the stuff that a list might be able to hold. However, tuples I like to think of as more steady than lists. They cannot change in number. You cannot add or append or delete anything to a tuple. Tuples have a little bit less of a range of operations. Again, tuples, just like lists, are indexed, means that each tuple value has an ID number, just like a list does. For example, in this tuple, we have Nissan at 0, Honda at 1, Toyota at 2, 0 at 3, 10.5 at 4, and true for 5. So here's how to act as a specific value in a tuple, which is something you might do a lot. So you just write the name of the tuple followed by the index number in brackets, similar to how we did it with a list. So let's do that real quick. We can do new tuple, and then let's say I want to get access to 90, which will be 2 in the index. And we get 90, just like that. Similarly, we can also use the len command on a tuple to figure out how long a tuple is specifically. We can just do len new tuple, and I'll get rid of this call to the one that's in second position. And you can see just like that, 1 to 5. So let's get into our final data type for this video. Our final type will be dictionaries. Dictionaries are like lists, but they store data in pairs instead of just having one individual data value. They're denoted by these curly braces. They can store multiple values in pairs. They have a key value format, aka, whereas on the left side is the key, aka what you call that value by, or you would write the call key to call a specific value, and the values in what's on the right side. So let's jump to an example real quick. One thing that tends to help when writing these, dictionary equals to curly braces. One thing that tends to help is to write each specific value, like pair of values, on a separate line, because that helps keep your code a bit more concise and just helps it, like, per se, it looks better in your head, at least, to, like, wrap your head around which values are paired with which values. So let's write, say, we can pair hello with goodbye. Just like that. We could also pair, say, red and blue. Make sure to add a comma after each one. Sorry, a comma, like that. Yeah. Or we can also do it for integers. Like we can say like 90 is to, I don't know, 86.5. we have basically endless possibilities what we can set each key to be and each value to be. Or we could do like true is paired with false. All right, then. We can just print our dictionary just like that. And as you can see, it says hello, goodbye, red, blue, 90, 86.5, and true and false. So that's an example of how a dictionary would look to you guys. So here are some of the functions for a dictionary. You can access each individual value by using the key. Unlike using the index, you'd use the key. For example, if I want to access 86.5, I need to know the specific key for 86.5. In this case, the key, much like if you say we're a computer, right? You basically have like two sheets of paper in front of you if you're like code busting, right? So you have one sheet that has the keys and one sheet that has the values associated with the keys. To call a value, you need to figure out which key would equal that value. For example, if I enter 90, the computer looks at that, looks at the key and says, okay, now which value is set to be the value for the key 90? In this case, it's 86.5. Or I change it, say to be true, I get false. We can also find the length of a dictionary by using the length command, or LEM. On that, you can see it's 4. Important to note, for a dictionary, you don't add the keys and values to figure out the length. The length would just be based on the length of pairs, how many pairs you have. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video on tuples, lists, and dictionaries. If you liked it, leave a like and maybe sub if you liked it. Maybe watch the next couple of videos. And next week we'll be getting into packages. And please remember, guys, donate if you can. It means a lot to Cure. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next week.